Good morning. 105.1. Welcome to the Kello Radio, to the Greg Belfrage Show. I am rushing around like a madman. This part of the day is the most stressful for me, seriously. Trying to get everything ready and hitting the go switch.
This is the Greg Belfrage Show.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Thursday, April 10th. And wow, what a day on Wall Street. In fact, President Trump on True Social this morning said, "What a day, but more great days coming," he said. Well, the president yesterday, markets have been receiving quite a jolt. And the president yesterday putting a 90-day pause on the tariffs, except for China. He's increasing the tariff against China 125%. He's raising it now to 125%. Which I thought was the big story, but the media is really focused on this 90-day hold, and there was an immediate impact on world markets yesterday. As soon as this was announced, and this was yesterday, over the noon hour or midday yesterday, that the president had announced this, and boom. I mean, it was just a great day on Wall Street. In fact, their third best day, I think, has been reported since, I don't know when. So you had world markets jumping, and I think a lot of us are asking, at least I am, was this the plan the whole time? I don't know. There are those who are, they love to criticize Trump. So, of course, what he's doing, and they're going after him. And you had Senator Chuck Schumer out there being critical of the president, which I think is always such a joke, because this is like a game of chess, and Trump is so many moves ahead of Chuck Schumer. And I'm sitting there and wondering, was this by design the entire time? I don't know. Some are saying, well, Trump was reacting and he was concerned about markets, and that Japan was actually going to sell off, U.S. Treasury bonds. And there was one guy I looked into that. There was one guy in Japan who was advocating that idea. I don't know that was serious. And in fact, now you have the administration saying that actually they were making good progress with world leaders. Everyone except China, was on board. And so was this the plan again, there's no way to answer that question, but it's certainly on my mind this morning as you watch all of this going on. So you had world markets just taking off beginning yesterday and soaring today. Japan's benchmark jumping more than 9%. So this has been welcome news on Wall Street. President making the decision to put the tariff hikes on hold for 90 days. And you have got to say, did he get everybody's attention? I mean, you have to wonder, okay, is he getting your attention? Yeah, it looks like he's gotten everybody's attention. You have all of these countries who are coming to the United States and they want to have a conversation. They want to talk about it. They want to take a look at this. Did it work? I mean, certainly appears like it did. And you've got now China, who all eyes are on China. And folks are saying, what Trump said about you know, concerning to us. So we'll see how this shakes out. But it's just, this has been a pretty explosive 24 hours. And now you had Bill Ackman, who's a hedge fund manager, and he's been critical of the president through in the midst of all of this. And now Ackman who is really highly respected on Wall Street. And Ackman is now saying that this 90-day tariff clause was brilliantly executed, he said of Trump. And he said, textbook art of the deal, said Ackman on X. So you've got his praise following the president's decision to raise tariffs on Beijing to 125%. So again, 90-day pause on the rest, but China, we're increasing them even more, 125%. Because as of yesterday, it was yesterday morning, it was at 104%. Now up to 125%. So when it comes to China, the president is not backing off at all. In fact, he's heating things up. He's heating things up between the United States and China. And Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, has been out there saying, as you know, United States is in a much better position than China. Let's see how long they want to continue this. Breitbart has a story saying even before the tariff relief yesterday, so the announcement that, okay, we're going to put a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs, even before that, global bond investors were rallying behind the president's push. And, there's a quote from the president's this was at at an event the other night when the president said, I know what the hell I'm doing. And he said on True Social yesterday morning, be cool. Everything's going to work out well. And so again, then you wonder, was this his plan the entire time? You just don't know. So the president's announcement came that some of the tariffs would be paused for 90 days. That got all of the attention, which I guess I found a little bit surprising because to me it seemed that, I don't know, I guess my own reaction was I thought the standing firm on the Chinese tariffs was the bigger story. But I certainly understand from a market perspective in this country why pausing those tariffs for 90 days is getting all of the attention. And so Breitbart says this outcome wasn't accidental. Trump administration officials had spent the previous days quietly assuring international partners that, to stand tall and that the trade strategy was, we're not headed toward chaos here. Relax. We know what we're doing. And today, I think you would have to admit, yeah, it certainly seems like they did. And the president said, a lot of these comments I've shared with you previously, but I think it's worth revisiting them. The president saying on Monday, virtually every country wants to negotiate, he said. And there was an auction that took place on yesterday, showing it. Breitbart reports the buyers weren't running from America, they were buying into it. And all eyes are really on China right now. So what happened with bonds and So it was not a sell America. The bond market signaled a vote of confidence in Trump's leadership, strength of the U.S. markets. One senior bond trader told Breitbart that Scott Bessent played a key role in his conversations with foreign leaders. He reassured investors that the U.S. Debt, was in steady hands, so on. So, which it turns out, in fact, it was. Did a lot of attention on this. Kurt Schlichter over at townhall.com's got a great piece this morning. And the headline is, you got to admit that Trump is packing some major cojones. And that nickname of Big Balls that's been out there, he says, move over, Big Balls. That nickname rightfully belongs to President Donald J. Trump. And he goes on to talk about this. I don't know that anybody other than Trump could do this. Seriously, Trump is just, he's got the courage, the ability to stand fast despite the hysteria. We've seen that throughout. You got people responding in a very hysterical way, and they don't seem to, Trump is pretty unflappable. I've said a number of times. And that's what you see in the way how all of this shaped out. So the president again this morning on Truth Social saying, what a day. But more great days are coming. This is probably late last evening that he actually said this. And then yesterday, around midday, he said, based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world markets, I'm hereby raising the tariff charge to China to 125%, effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States in order to negotiate and so on, he said, these countries have not retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States. And I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. So the reciprocal tariffs, he's saying now 10%, that's going into effect immediately. Again, what the president is doing here is showing favor to countries that have been willing to talk to the United States and correct this issue. And those like China, in fact, China really stands alone, is what we're seeing. He says, okay, now it's up to 125%. This is like, I mean, high stakes poker, man. High stakes poker. I fold. I don't have, just don't have the ability. There's some other stories I want to share this morning. And we'll get into this in more detail. But I want to touch on some of the other big stories this morning. The president also repeated his threat against Iran yesterday to use military force if they do not agree to end their nuclear program. And he said that Israel would play a key role in any military action were that to happen, he's saying. And he says, Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And if they do not want to stop their development efforts, then military action may be the next step. He said, I'm not asking for much, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. And he said if it requires, he was signing executive orders again yesterday in the Oval Office as the questions about this came up. And the president said, if it requires military, we're going to have military. Israel will obviously be the leader of that. No one leads us, but we do what we want. But he's talking about Israel in regard to Iran. And so he wouldn't say much more beyond that. He said, I don't want to be specific. But when you start talks, you know if they're going along well or not. And I would say the conclusion would be when I think they're not going along well. So they're having talks. How they're going, we'll have to wait and see as to how those talks are going. Also, the Trump administration saying yesterday they're appealing a court ruling ordering the White House to restore the Associated Press and their access to events at the White House and onboard Air Force One. Remember, the White House had said no to the Associated Press. Yeah, we're not allowing them. And so a judge said the viewpoint-based denial of the AP's access was a violation of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees freedom of speech and of the press. Does that mean that you have a right to every presidential news conference? You still got freedom of speech. You're just not being allowed to. I guess that's a bit of a stretch for me. But I think that's, and I said this yesterday on the fourth hour. You know what my response to that would be? Okay, the White House, the Associated Press comes in. Okay, we've got the AP back. We want to welcome the AP back to, boom, boom, and then never take a question from the AP. just never take a question from them. Or if you do say, oh, yeah, such and such at the Associated Press, ask their question and then just move on. Go to the next. There are so many ways around this. It's just an absolute joke. Just an absolute joke. The AP is there. Okay, big deal. Let him in. I would not answer their questions. That's me. That's why you should be glad every day that I'm not the president of the United States. All right, other stories this morning. The president, among the executive orders signed by the president, and we've talked about this in the past. The president wants to make showers great again. He signed an executive order removing the federal restrictions on water pressure for things like shower heads, sinks, dishwashers. This is something the president had talked about out on the campaign trail. And so he signed the executive order yesterday saying no longer will shower heads be weak and worthless, he said. And, he's talked about this a lot. He's made a joke of it. But it's been an issue for folks. We've talked about it on the program this has become an issue. And the president had said, I like to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair. And everybody, folks were laughing. And he said, you have to stand under the shower for 15 minutes until it gets wet. So he is ending the Obama-Biden war on water pressure is the way that he put it. So an executive order to make showers great again. Also, there was a story this morning. This is a big story over at Straight Arrow News that more Americans are tapping into their 401k retirement. And this is, I think, information coming from Vanguard. They found that last year, more Americans treated their 401k retirement savings like an emergency fund. And people tapping into it for financial difficulties such as eviction, home foreclosure, medical expenses, and so on. So you've got a growing number of Americans tapping into their 401k for emergency funds. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. Thanks for starting your day with us. It's always great to have you along. 627, and you're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, the Give You More Tire and Automotive Store.
Hello, this is Mother Nature.
Hold it right there, Mother Nature. I need to tell people about a limited offer that could save them thousands of dollars. If your furnace or air conditioner is older than Old Man Winter, call Extreme Heating and Cooling. Get a new system at the best discount they've ever offered. Plus, you may qualify for a tax credit this year only. Financing available at 0% if you qualify. As a Rheem Pro partner, this is the largest saving ever. The quantities are limited. Call today.
Extreme Heating and Cooling, always there when you need them. At Avera Orthopedics, we're transforming pain into possibility every day. Whether you're chasing a personal best or simply want to enjoy life to the fullest, our specialized care is designed to help you feel better and stronger. We're here for you. No referral needed.
You guys make me laugh.
Orthopedics to unlock a world of endless possibilities. Visit avera.org/orthopedics and start your journey from pain to possibility today.
Storms, fires, power grid failures, supply chain stretched thin. There's never been a better time to get prepared. And right now, My Patriot Supply is offering something they've never done before. For a limited time, when you order their 3-month emergency food supply, you'll receive the Mega Kit for the same price. That's over $360 worth of real beef, chicken, fruits, and vegetables, included absolutely free. And this kit isn't just about surviving. It's built to keep you strong, delivering 2,500 calories a day. That's 1,000 calories more per day than other emergency kits on the market. Whether it's a long-term outage, a short-term crisis, or just a little peace of mind, this food is ready when you need it. It stays fresh for up to 25 years and ships fast and discreetly from MyPatriotSupply.com. This is an unprecedented offer and won't come around twice. Take control of your family's future while you still can. Visit MyPatriotSupply.com now. That's MyPatriotSupply.com, America's leader in emergency preparedness.
More clouds in our forecast today and a few degrees cooler than yesterday, but still above average.
What is the temperature?
Northwesterly wind at 20 to 35. Tonight, clearing skies, low near 32. Tomorrow, we're back up to a pleasant 64 in the afternoon with a south breeze. Warmer and windy weather on Saturday, high at 74.
And in Sioux Falls at 6:30. Partly cloudy and 44 currently at Kello. News and information updates coming up. We'll check in with Fox News Radio. What a day on the markets yesterday. See whether or not that continues again today. So Fox News Radio coming up. Then we'll check in with Tom Rooney in the Kello.com News Center for a rundown of events going on locally. Then I'll run down stories that are trending this morning. I go to freespoke.com every morning and take a look at all of the stories that are trending, and then try to share as many of those with you as I can, give you a pretty good overview of what's going on. That's all coming up here on Kello.
A partner swap with Russia frees a Russian-American woman charged with treason. Senior Carolina.
Oh.
Carolina was arrested in January of 2024 in Yekaterinburg during a visit to see her family. She was jailed for donating about $50 to a charity supporting Ukraine on the first day of Russia's invasion. The court found her guilty of high treason, sentencing her to imprisonment in a penal colony.
Fox's Alex Hogan. The swap is for a man accused of illegally exporting electronics for Russian military equipment. Now, at least 184 deaths confirmed in a nightclub roof collapse in the Dominican Republic.
Rescue workers are still trying to dig through the rubble of the Jet Set Club in Santo Domingo, but they don't hold out much hope for the 20 people thought still trapped in the ruins. Many of those in hospital are said by doctors to be badly hurt, 8 in a critical condition.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. America's listening to Fox News.
Weather brought to you by Infinity Sedation Dentistry, Sioux Falls. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Tom Rooney. Attorney General Marty Jackley is on board with his colleagues, warning companies against robocalls on their networks. He's joined a nationwide task force to combat the problem. He says those companies are allowing scams to be passed on directly to the public. The Better Business Bureau is also sounding the alarm on scams. The number of identity and information scam reports is rising dramatically, with federal agencies reporting over 3 million cases last year. Jesse Schmidt of Triple B, South Dakota says you should get into the habit of checking your credit with each of the 3 major reporting agencies.
And if you do that, you can see who has made an inquiry into your credit, if any new credit has been taken out in your name.
Schmidt says you should also freeze your credit with the reporting agencies so the scammers cannot open accounts or take out loans, even if they do get your personal information. It's advertised as the largest buffet in South Dakota, but the last check, it was closed. The former and current owners of the Hibachi Grill and Buffet on West 41st Street in Sioux Falls were arrested and jailed earlier this week on immigration and labor law.
I'm really sorry to hear this.
Yesterday, the restaurant was closed due to limited staffing. AARP is warning about proposed changes in the Social Security Administration.
I loved going to Hibachi.
To end telephone identity verification and require in-person visits to field offices. AARP State Director Eric Gaikowski says that creates a hardship for residents of rural states like South Dakota.
The agency is pushing more people to use their online service, but many people in South Dakota still lack access to high-quality broadband or even access to a computer. Any delay in access to benefits can mean a real economic hardship.
The changes are intended to reduce fraud, but Gaikowski says the implementation schedule needs to be paused in order to avoid placing an undue burden on the older Americans who depend on the benefits. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Tom Rooney.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Areas of clouds rolling in from the north today. Temperatures a little cooler, high around 62, and that's still above average for this time of the year. Northwest winds at 20 to 35 miles per hour. Tonight's low temperature at 32. Tomorrow, turning just a little warmer, back to 64 with a south breeze. Windy and warmer on Saturday, high 74. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
At the intersection of information and entertainment, that's where you'll find Kello. News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com.
Here's a warning. Never use AI instead of an attorney. And if you are an attorney, never use it to research cases. I'm Kim Commando for LinkedIn Jobs. Post a job for free and find qualified candidates quickly at linkedin.com/Kim. You can't argue that ChatGPT...
I have trouble with ChatGPT.
They've had 2+ years to rip through every law textbook and every court case there is. Even so, AI has a problem.
Sounds great on the surface, but
a New York law firm that used ChatGPT to build an entire lawsuit. Trouble was, AI cited fake laws to suit its own arguments. The lawyers could have been disbarred. Instead, the firm was fined $5,000. This week, another New Yorker found real trouble when he tried to use an AI avatar on a screen to argue his case in front of a panel of judges. They were not amused. If you think you need an attorney, you probably do. And what you don't need is AI. Start your day like 650,000 other people do with my free newsletter at getkim.com. As a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of clocking out early. Your business is on your mind 24/7. So when you're hiring, you need a partner that grinds just as hard as you do. That hiring partner is LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one place. Their new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people. Either post your job for free or pay to promote. Promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified applicants. At the end of the day, the most important thing to your small business is the quality of candidates. And with LinkedIn, you can feel confident that you're getting the best. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Kim. That's linkedin.com/Kim to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Do it today. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Kim.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Callow News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, with 2 locations to make sure you have the proper traction this winter.
In today's fast-paced business world, building relationships is key. At Lawrence & Schiller, it's about pushing boundaries and problem solving. Tired of settling for subpar results? Get to know us at l-s.com, where solutions are extraordinary.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Renewal by Andersen Picture and Combination Windows. Optimizing a beautiful view and light in a bedroom, kitchen, or living room from ABC Seamless of Sioux Falls. Call 605-646-2667 today.
That's ABC Seamless.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to goodrx.com/GLP. That's goodrx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
It's tax season. By now, we're all a bit tired of numbers, but here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number, $100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed. Save up to 40% in your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com, promo code CLAY. Terms apply.
With Progressive Snapshot, you could save on auto insurance rates by driving safely, which is nice because you can just keep doing you. So keep on using that broken phone charger because it occasionally works. Keep quoting something you heard on the podcast as your own. Keep ignoring your sister's texts while you drive and after. And when baggage claim says, have a great trip, keep on saying, you too. And keep driving safely. And you could save with Snapshot for Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California from all agencies. Surcharge possible for unsafe driving.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-334-2266. That's 800-334-2266. 800-334-2266.
49th Street Liquor is your go-to for great drinks, even better deals. They're right at the corner of 49th Street, Minnesota Avenue. And right now at 49th Street Liquor, they've got a huge variety of non-alcoholic THC-infused beverages. Those are becoming a lot more popular, and you'll find them at 49th Street Liquor. Also, they've got everything that you like. I mean, your favorite beer, wine, and spirits. They've got a huge walk-in beer cave with a pretty good collection of local beers that are there. You'll find seltzers. You can find fine liqueurs. They've got a humidor with fine cigars, a private video lottery space. There's just a lot to find and enjoy. Your happy hour starts at the new 49th Street Liquor at 49th in Minnesota. Cheers to good times and great drinks.
What happens in South Dakota every day that we can fit on one radio station, even Callow. That's why there's Callow.com and Callow on your phone with a free Callow AM app.
With local stories, podcasts, and other exclusive content.
Get more of South Dakota. Callow News Talk 1320 107.
20 minutes before 7. It's mostly cloudy and 44. Great to have you along this morning. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, the stock market rallied yesterday in response to the president announcing a 90-day pause on the tariffs. And at the same time, he announced 125% in tariffs against China. So he's giving everyone else, all of these other countries, a break, but not China. And these other countries have been reaching out to the United States. And Carolyn Levitt was asked. She had told reporters the president has a spine of steel and he will not break. This is a story by MSNBC. Again, they're trying to make it sound like, oh, the president. I mean, this is all just chaos. I don't know. I don't know what your perspective is, but I'm looking at this and is it chaos or was this the plan all along? I mean, one of the things Donald Trump obviously is very good at doing is keeping things to himself and keeping a lid on things that he doesn't want to get out there. So was this the plan the entire time? You have to wonder. That thought certainly comes into my mind. He's not making this up. This is what folks have said about Donald Trump all of the time. He's making it up as he goes along. I have a hard time. I have a hard time finding words. I don't know how to respond to that because that's not what we see. People who are making it up as they go along do not enjoy that kind of success and do not have that kind of track record. It just does not happen. So the president saying about and again, here's the president saying, my policies will never change. Maybe the policy never did. Does MSNBC know what the policy was in the first place? Acting as if they're in the know. I don't know that any of us did. And do you at times say things in order to mislead people or create a certain perception? Is it legitimate to do that when you're talking about global markets? Trying to achieve some fairness for the country and global markets? Are these things, I think, certainly legitimate? So we saw the stock market rally yesterday to this. The S&P 500 skyrocketed over 9.5% following the president's announcement yesterday. And again, in fact, it was stock market posted their third biggest gain since World War II. The NASDAQ composite jumped 12.16% yesterday, and you've got investors who are talking about the president of Bolvin Wealth Management said, this is the pivotal moment we've been waiting for. The immediate market reaction has been overwhelmingly positive as investors interpret this as a step toward much needed clarity. So the president announcing a 90-day tariff pause for most countries. However, I think it's important not to get this, to lose this. The president also announced that he was raising the tariff against China to 125%. So he told reporters at the White House that yippee critics and a queasy bond market were factors in the reversal. And then he said I think he said into a hot mic He didn't realize it, but he said the uptick in stock value's got to be a record. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed more than 7.8%. And you're getting a lot of reaction. The president told reporters, I thought people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid. Unlike these champions, he said. And I'm honored to have done it. And look, nothing's over yet, the president said. So the announcement locks in a 10% tariff rate on most imports, excludes items such as vehicles, which face a new 25% tariff, goods from Mexico and Canada, covered by the USMCA trade deal. And the president still remains hopeful that a deal is going to be made with China. He said a deal is going to be made with every one of them. And he said, it takes guts for our country to go through it. That's why I said, be cool. And so he was asked, he was talking about bonds, and he said, I was watching the bond market. The bond market is very tricky. I was watching it, but if you look at it now, it's beautiful. The bond market right now is beautiful. But yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy. Yeah, that really is the story. That's what was happening. All right, other stories that are trending this morning. U.S. District Court judge ruled that the Trump administration must restore access for the Associated Press to the Oval Office and Air Force One. That comes following a lawsuit because the AP was barred because they did not adopt the administration, the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. President saying it's the Gulf of America. Associated Press refusing to do that. And because of that, Trump then saying, okay, well, you're not getting access to Air Force One, not getting access to the Oval Office. And the judge said the AP should be treated equally with other outlets, despite their refusal to use the new name. Which, and again, I just think the way around that is you just never call on the Associated Press again. You just don't call on them. Yeah, they're there. You just don't call on them. Other stories trending this morning. The lawyer for Carmelo Anthony, he's the Texas high school student that is accused of stabbing a fellow 17-year-old student to death at this track meet earlier this week. He plans to ask for his $1 million bond to be lowered. And an attorney representing the family said, I know my client said it was self-defense. I don't have any reason to disbelieve that, but I need to develop facts, talk to people, and figure out what's going on before I make any statements about what I think happened. So he is asking for that $1 million bond to be lowered. The Denver Nuggets have fired their head coach, Michael Malone, and their general manager, Kelvin Booth. Team announced this on Tuesday. So that move came with the Nuggets sitting in fourth place in the Western Conference. And a stunning decision, say those who follow. That's coming from sports media. Also trending, the wife of NFL star Tyreek Hill, Keita Hill, has filed for divorce. This is a day after police officers responded to a domestic dispute at their home in Miami. So her divorce filing is the second time the couple has sought to dissolve their marriage since they tied the knot in 2023. So a few months after getting married, Tyreek filed for divorce, though he later claimed it was a mistake, that he and Keita were happy. Now you've got Keita filing for divorce. I don't know if you've seen these yet or not. They're pretty amazing. There is a detailed analysis of a full-size digital scan of the Titanic. This is a exact 3D replica. And a number of stories about this because this scan is showing now evidence of how the ship ripped in two after it sank. Remember, it sank in 1912. You had over 1,500 people who lost their lives in the after the Titanic hit that iceberg. So the new scans provide views of the boiler room and reports. This is a report from the BBC. They say it confirms eyewitness accounts that engineers worked right to the end to keep the ship's lights on. A computer simulation also suggesting punctures in the hull are what led to the ship's demise, and pretty amazing. And one of the analysts of all of this data said Titanic is the last surviving eyewitness to the disaster, and she still has stories to tell. So the scan has been studied for a new documentary. You might find this interesting. National Geographic and Atlantic Productions working on a new documentary called Titanic, The Digital Resurrection. So they took more than 700,000 images taken from every angle, were used to create this digital twin of the Titanic, and it's pretty incredible. So be watching for that documentary if you are, because I think, I must admit I'm fascinated with the Titanic and these efforts to explore the Titanic, and it's just it's very intriguing. At least it has been to me. Also trending this morning, the president planted a 12-year-old sapling at the White House. This is the tree to replace the historic Jackson magnolia that had been planted quite a number of years ago and had to be removed. So it's that tree over 200 years old, in unfortunately terrible condition. So the president planting a Magnolia sapling rather than the magnolia, it's a Magnolia sapling. And I don't know if you saw photos of that yesterday. The president's out there with a golden shovel. He's out there digging up the dirt in which they planted the tree. Also, there's a story this morning. Apple moved 5 cargo planes filled with iPhones and other devices from India to the United States in a last minute, and they did it in 3 days. And it was a last minute effort to avoid a 10% tariff imposed by the president that took place on April 5th. And this is a report from the Times of India. So Apple transporting the devices during the last week in March. And sources say Apple does not currently plan to raise retail prices in the U.S. despite the tariffs. And again, that information may be a little bit dated since there's been a lot happening in the last 24 hours. Also, there's a story trending about a development of a nuclear bomb 24 times more powerful than Hiroshima. And this development of this bomb is significantly ahead of schedule, according to U.S. national security officials. So they're working on this bomb, and the headlines are just all, like gloom and doom and fear. And I'm so far beyond the fear over when I was a young man, the nuclear winter and what that was going to do and what it would cause, and there's a lot of that. This news is fueling all of those fears again, so you should be aware of it. Also, Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas, she's part of the squad. She said at a historically black church that America needs robust immigration because we done picking cotton, she said. And she said, so I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants. The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now, she said. Okay, so I'm lying? You're not. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation, she said. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. 6:57. Cloudy skies, 44. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Well, thank you, my friend, for being here. Hope to see you again at 9:30 when we're back on YouTube for the 4th hour. So long until then. Come back, though.
Head to Royal River Casino for some sinful spins on the Golden Royal Wheel.